Fantastic. We are ready to get going. So yeah, welcome everyone to today's TPLink's Ultimate ISP Solution webinar. Obviously, we're going to be taking a look at the TPLink portfolio, but specifically, their products and solutions that are specialized for ISPs usages specifically. So, ultimately, we've got equipment that is specifically designed to help provide, firstly, better Wi-Fi, lower your overheads, and provide more control to you as an ISP. So just so you know whose voice it is that you're listening to, my name is Charles Ducray, and I'm the TPLink Product Manager here at MiRO Distribution, and I will be taking you through today's presentation. If you do have any questions, please feel free to pop it into the comment section, and I will be sure to answer all of your questions at the end of this webinar. So right off the bat, the first topic of discussion is going to be TP-Link's Agile solution. Okay, so this is basically a two-part solution, if you will, or two-component solution, whereby this is a sort of software and hardware feature that applies to ISP specifically. So this is a solution that, generally speaking, we do not or will not actually provide to the general public, as it's got a few extra bells and whistles that are specific to internet service providers. So to look at the first component of the solution, we look at a feature called Agile Configuration. Now, to understand the solution, or why the solution has come about, we need to understand the initial problem. And one of the first problems right off the bat that ISPs face is the fact that you have to individually configure each and every single router. Okay, so each device needs to be manually modified. Okay, and furthermore, operators need to provide high-cost after-sales services to provide these units. Those are sort of the first two initial problems that one would run into when you look at a typical ISP, that's looking to serve residential clients and so forth. The solution to this problem is something called Agile Configuration. Basically, the first benefit to this is that it allows you to batch configure your routers. Okay, so after the configuration settings have been configured, they can then be applied in bulk, meaning that it's a lot more easier and efficient for you as an ISP to configure a large amount of routers. Furthermore, ISPs have to set up the configuration before selling the units to their end users. So, basically, the ball doesn't get rolling until these units are configured. So by having Agile Configuration to help you batch configure these units, it essentially gets configured before it's even on site, meaning that it essentially becomes a plug-and-play solution. When your installer gets to the client, all they do is plug in the router. As soon as it picks up an internet connection, that configuration will immediately be pushed down onto the unit, meaning there's no further intervention required on site. Furthermore, one of the major benefits of this as well is that if an end user resets the router intentionally or unintentionally, it will always fail over to the ISP default configuration as opposed to the manufacturer default. Meaning that if the unit's reset, you're not going to have to send out a maintenance team to go and reconfigure those routers. So, as many of you will know in the industry, whether it's done intentionally or unintentionally, it's always going to cause a major problem. Whether it was the client's fault or not, you need to resolve it in the quickest time possible. And by having the router or your Wi-Fi router fail over onto your configuration whenever it's reset, that's a huge, huge benefit to you as an ISP. So with regards to the batch configuration that you can do, there's a number of default settings that you can sort out beforehand. So things like your wireless settings, the SSID, password, security settings, system settings, language, and time zone. So all of that can be pre-configured before the router even goes out on site. So if you look at a typical ISP scenario, before using Agile Configuration versus after using Agile Configuration, you can typically see a medium to large ISP reduce the number of after-sales services per month to from about 65 to 15, and the time costs of customization per 100 units which would typically take, let's say, about 200 units to configure 100 Wi-Fi routers, is now reduced to about 40 minutes. As you do that config once, and then it gets all relayed onto those 100 routers in one single go. So between the batch configuration and obviously the failover function to your ISP config, there's some massive benefits there. And these come standard with a select few Agile configuration routers from TPLink that I will highlight shortly. But now, obviously that answers your call to two of the problems that exist with regards to setting up and resets. However, those are not the only problems that your typical ISP would face. Okay, there's still a few more that we'd like to address. So firstly, how can you support new firmware upgrades? Okay, without you being out on site, you're not able to log into the router directly and push on the latest firmware. How can you help subscribers measure their internet bandwidth quality? If a client's calling up and telling you that they're only getting 4 megs, can you indeed confirm that from your side? How can you help subscribers check or identify Wi-Fi issues? The answer to that is TP-Link's Agile ACS server. So this is an additional software solution that works with the Agile configuration routers that you essentially stack on top of that solution to complete your full end-to-end Agile solution. So essentially what this provides you with is a full remote management capability. So full visibility of every single Wi-Fi router that's out in the field. So as I mentioned, it's a remote management solution. So a true TR0 bundle up your Agile ACS software solution with the Agile CPEs or Wi-Fi routers that you'd be using. So these work hand in hand together. The idea of using the solution is to reduce your operating expenses, to reduce the number of truck rolls. Okay, you want to be ideally allocating your installation teams to first-time installations and not to have to go back and do more maintenance at a later stage. That's obviously an additional overhead to you, and you can utilize those resources more effectively by having something like visibility remotely. You can also reduce your average holding time. So as an ISP, typically you'll have to have a help desk or call center, whereby if a client is having an issue, they need to call you up. That is, of course, a limited resource. We can't all afford to have hundreds of help desk staff members. So by using something like Agile Configuration, we can reduce the number of staff members that we have or require, and at the same time also bring down the amount of time that they are kept busy, meaning that typically a client will call up and not have to wait as long as usual when you are utilizing an Agile solution, simply because there are less issues because you've got that remote management functionality. And with regards to your customer satisfaction retention, obviously if they're not having their router go down, even if it were their faults, they're still going to be unhappy about it. So by not having that Wi-Fi router go down, you're just improving their overall satisfaction with your service that you're providing. And although this may be the first time you may have heard of this solution, Agile Configuration, Agile ACS, it is something that has been proven in the field, not just in South Africa, but all over the world. We've got a few different examples to share with you as well. So, in conclusion, through utilizing this really innovative solution, we're looking to reduce the on-site support. So by performing critical operations remotely, including changing configuration, turning services off and on, and performing diagnostics tests. Okay, and then furthermore, we can utilize the Agile ACS solution to facilitate maintenance services, such as upgrading devices' firmware, updating its configuration, extending the inform interval to relieve the ACS server loading. So quite a cool feature that this solution has to offer with regards to firmware upgrades is that you can actually create different device groups. So as an ISP, you may be serving different types of users. You've got your residential clients and you've got your business clients. And as you all know, both those sort of client categories have different usage trends. So maybe at a residential client's peak time to be on the Wi-Fi will be about 7 o'clock at night, whereas with a business client, it's probably going to be somewhere in the morning. So their usage trends and such differ, meaning that pushing firmware upgrades and such is not going to be applicable to all those various clients at the same particular time. So what you can do is split your users into different device groups and then set different times for firmware upgrades to be pushed onto your Wi-Fi routers. So yeah, from the back end, you'll have full visibility of your network. You can do things such as device scans, perform diagnostic tests, look at the service of your quality, service quality management, push firmware and CFG file upgrades, reset the units as well as reboot them, and so forth. So a lot of functionality on the back end that you can do using this solution. And yeah, once again, just bringing it back to the customer satisfaction and retention. Ideally, what you want to be able to do is identify an issue before a client complains. Okay, ensure the stable running of your network by making sure that the latest firmware upgrades are always pushed onto your routers. Reducing your operating costs and increasing efficiency. Like I said, moving resources away from maintenance and reallocating them to the front line. Focusing on doing new installations and growing your business. And then, of course, in a worst case scenario, if there is a problem, you can troubleshoot at a very fast and efficient speed, via the device management console and log. So in summary, utilize this solution effectively to improve the levels of satisfaction and retention so that you can keep those clients for many years to come. With regards to the field trials that we've done, we've got a number of local examples here in South Africa. In actual fact, the Agile Configuration or Agile Solution routers are the most popular routers in South Africa at the moment. So if you haven't heard of it, it's inevitable that you will eventually, as these are the most widely used routers in South Africa. And we've got a few examples of ISPs in India, Netherlands, and so forth, that are Siberia as well, that have been using this solution very successfully. And we've got a few updates on the numbers there, 7,000 users, 4,000 users, and so forth, that they are using to manage with the Agile ACS solution. And something I actually want to mention, which will typically be one of the first questions, is how much does the solution cost? It is in actual fact completely free. If you're buying the TP-Link Wi-Fi routers and deploying them in your network, the Agile ACS solution is at no additional cost. So this is sort of punted as a cloud managed solution. However, it is actually a locally hosted solution whereby you'll essentially download the software from TP-Link and host it on your own server. So if you are wanting to look into doing this, let us know. We'll give you a basic list of the technical specifications or requirements of your server. It's not very demanding, and as long as you can cover that, you'll be good to go with regards to downloading the software. We'll provide it to you directly, and you'll then get visibility of all the routers in your network. Now, this is just a quick run through of the 3 routers that we have available. We've essentially got 3 different types to cover each type of client that you typically want to serve. So we've got your WR850N, which is our most entry-level unit on the left, which is a standard 2.4 gigahertz 300N router. Okay, for a client that wants AC speeds, the most cost-effective option that we have is the Archer C20. So this has AC 1200 wireless speeds, AC 750 wireless speeds, but still has 10100 ports. But for a client that then wants AC 1200 speeds and gigabit ports, last but not least, we have the Archer C5. So whether it's an entry-level client or slightly higher end or more demanding client that wants better speeds and so forth, you've got a variety of different routers to pick from over here. And like I said, as long as you're using these routers, the Agile ACS and Agile Configuration failover and batch configuration benefits are all free to you. So maybe a question that's applicable to the current time that we're in is how are we doing with regards to stock quantities due to the chipset shortage that we are experiencing globally. So this is something that's not unique to TP-Link, but across the world, there's been a massive Wi-Fi chipset shortage, which has impacted a number of vendors. But the good news is, from MiRO's side, we have an extremely healthy TP-Link stock holding across the board on all three of these models. So, we did get a heads up from TP-Link that there was a shortage on the way. So we work very actively with them to make sure that we've got ample stock holding, and we've bought some large quantities to assist our valuable ISP business partners. So we have stock of all of these units on hand. So if there is any particular one that you're interested in, please let us know and we'll be happy to assist. Cool. Then next of all, since this is an ISP themed presentation or webinar, we had to make mention of the TP-Link Deco solution. So this is your whole home mesh solution, and this basically meets the requirements of our slightly more demanding clients that want whole home Wi-Fi coverage. For those of you that don't know what a mesh is, I'm going to just literally read this general explanation to you to give you a better understanding. So mesh Wi-Fi works by using two or more mesh Wi-Fi devices or nodes to create a mesh Wi-Fi network. One node is connected to an internet modem or router, while the rest can be placed throughout your home to create a powerful wireless network. Unlike traditional routers, these nodes are all part of the same network and share the same SSID and password. This makes setting and scaling up your mesh network as easy as adding another node. So essentially, a number of different meshes working together to give you one single Wi-Fi network, okay, whereby you've got blanket coverage, a single SSID, meaning that when you're moving between various nodes, there will be seamless handover between the two. So a common misconception of end users is meshing with seamless handover. So I just want to explain that over here. So the way a mesh works is essentially you'll have either your main router, which will be then connected to your main mesh node, or a main mesh node, as with in the TP-Link scenario, that is a router and a node. Okay. Now, the sort of challenge that we face here, typically in a larger size home, is the requirement for additional Wi-Fi nodes to obviously give us a better range of coverage. But the question is, how do we connect this main node to the secondary ones? So the first option, of course, is to cable it up, which is 100% an option on all of these the TP-Link Deco units. But if that's not possible, or maybe it's going to be quite an extensive or expensive installation, we might want to go the mesh route, where essentially what we do is we form a wireless backhaul between the various nodes, which will send and receive data from one another, so that the furthest away mesh nodes can then also give off a Wi-Fi signal. And all in all, that will give you whole home Wi-Fi coverage. So to mesh basically means to create a wireless backhaul between multiple nodes. Seamless handover on the other end means that if you have a connected device, if you move away from one node to another, the network will know to automatically push you over to the closest node to ensure that you have the fastest possible connection. So those two often work hand in hand with each other, but often a client will explain that they want a mesh network, but in actual fact, they mean they just want seamless handover, because like I said, you do have the option to cable these up as well if that is an option for you. Cool. Then looking at the TP-Link Deco range, so look, these units pretty much perform the same function in the sense that they are multiple nodes that will all mesh together to provide one large Wi-Fi network. So I've basically just highlighted some of the key differentiators between the different models. So we've got the Deco E4, first of all, which is an AC1200 mesh unit. This is the most cost-effective option in the range, and it looks like this. It's smaller nodes. But the way in which TP-Link have done that is they've simply equipped it with 10100 LAN ports. So if a client doesn't require gigabit LAN ports, then this is definitely the way to go. They've still got over gigabits on the wireless side. For clients who's insistent on having gigabit LAN ports, they want to cable up their Xbox or their PC directly to one of the nodes, then obviously that will make the most sense. That you'll then want to go for the Deco M4, which is simply a step up from the E4 in the sense that it's got faster ports. Then we have the Deco M5, which has slightly faster, wider speeds, a bit more of a powerful processor, and slightly better coverage as well. And then last but not least, we've got the Deco M9, which is AC 2200 tri-band Wi-Fi speeds. So I say tri-band in the sense that it actually has two 5 gigahertz channels that it occupies, and one 2.4 gigahertz frequency that it also uses as well. So the significance of that is it has a dedicated 5 gigahertz frequency. So whereas the rest of these units are dual band units and will utilize a portion of the 5 gigahertz frequency, for instance, to perform that wireless backhaul that we spoke about earlier, the tri-band unit will have a dedicated 5 gigahertz frequency purely for wireless backhaul, meaning that the additional 5 gigahertz frequency and the other 2.4 gigahertz frequency will be purely dedicated to serving your concurrent connections, so to providing Wi-Fi. You can just buy an additional Deco unit and add that to your network. So very easy expansion with these units. And last but not least, an important question we often get asked is about the interoperability. If you have, let's say, a high-end Deco M9, but you only need to add, you're looking to only add a Deco M5 to your network, all of the units that we mentioned on the previous page are completely interoperable, meaning you can mix and match with them as you please, and they will all work in perfect harmony with one another. So you're not limited to a specific model within the range. So as illustrated in the image here, we've got Deco M4s speaking to Deco M5s. And yeah, a huge value add to your clients is the Deco app. So this allows for a very easy setup of the units, gives you a few extra bells and whistles like parental controls, where you can set specific times, specific type of content that the little ones can view and so forth. Device prioritization, with the current state of the nation or state of the globe with COVID-19, we see a lot of hybrid networks where we see people working from home, where they're using their Wi-Fi for not just leisure or watching Netflix and so forth, but also for work operations as well. So if you've got multiple users at the house, you can then prioritize different devices. So obviously, if you've got your work laptop and you've got conference calls and such that you need to do, you'll prioritize that device, meaning that if someone else tries to jump on the network to stream Netflix, if you do consume all the available bandwidth, they will be the first one to feel the lag, basically, and your connection will be prioritized. You can also create guest networks. So if you're having visitors, you can have a separate guest SSID for them, whereby once again you can also control the upload, download speeds, the amount of data they can use, and so forth as well. And furthermore, or last but not least, you can also control your network from anywhere. So as long as your smart device has a connection to the internet, you can be anywhere in the world and you'll be able to see exactly what's happening in your home network. So this is once again a completely free application. So your end users can download it from either the Apple Apple iStore or the Google Play Store, and they'll be able to start benefiting from the Deco app. Cool, and that basically summarizes our standard Deco offering. But just so that you know, there is a roadmap of some exciting units that are coming through shortly. Things like the Deco M9, which is your standard Deco node, which is bundled up with additional mesh units that can be plugged into the wall to get powered up. The Deco X20, which we've already done a few in-house tests on, which is absolutely incredible, as this is TP-Link's Wi-Fi 6 mesh solution. So extremely powerful. And then last but not least, the Deco 5G, which is also equipped with Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi. Basically, with this unit, it operates on your 5G mobile access network. So a lot of flexibility with regards to where that can be installed. As long as it's got access to the mobile access network, you will be able to get Wi-Fi. And with that being said, extremely fast Wi-Fi, as it is a 5G and Wi-Fi 6 unit. Cool. So guys, that summarizes this presentation, talking about the ultimate ISP solutions from TPLink. I'd like to give you thank you very much for taking the time to join us this afternoon. If you do have any questions, please feel free to call us on +27 12 657 0960, or pop us an email at sales@miro.co.za. If you would like to personally speak to me, you're also more than welcome to pop me a mail at charlesgd@miro.co.za. And last but not least, or most importantly, I would like to strongly advise you to go and get on to the MiRO Academy. This is a really powerful online learning platform that we've brought to life within the last year or two. And basically, we've got a number of free webinars, and we also have a number of subscription options for you and your company, or you and your colleagues, to learn about the latest, greatest technologies that we're bringing to the market. So definitely, that's probably the best way to stay plugged in. To keep yourself in the loop with what's going on within our industry. But thank you very much. If there are any questions, please pop it in the comments box, and I'll be happy to answer those for you. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining, and I hope that you enjoyed our webinar.